Commander Elias Trent floated in the small cockpit of the Vanguard, staring at the endless darkness outside. Stars sparkled like tiny jewels, but they felt cold and distant. He had always loved space, the way it stretched endlessly, the way humanity could look out and wonder. But today, the universe felt hostile, unwelcoming, and merciless. The mission had been routine at first. Vanguard was exploring the outer rim of human space, beyond known territories. The crew had expected strange readings, maybe some rogue asteroids, but nothing prepared them for what came next. A sudden pulse hit their ship, knocking out the primary engines and sending alarms screaming through the deck. "Commander," shouted Lieutenant Mara Chen over the comms, "we've been hit. Hull breach in Sector 4. Elias' hands flew over the control panels. Lights blinked red and warning sirens echoed in the metal corridors. "Damage report, Mara," he barked, trying to stay calm. "Multiple breaches, engines failing. We can't hold the ship, we need to abandon." He didn't let her finish. "No, not yet, we can fix this." But deep down, he knew the odds were against them. On the view screen, something moved, fast, angular, not like any ship humans had built. Alien, Elias had seen pictures, heard reports, but never face to face. Now they were here and they were not friendly. The alien craft pulsed with strange energy that made his skin crawl. "Commander, they're targeting us," Mara shouted. Elias' mind raced. He had trained for emergencies, for combat, for survival, but nothing could have prepared him for betrayal. In the chaos of the attack, the crew made a decision. They would jettison him in an escape pod. It was the only way to save themselves, they said. Humanity had to survive, and he, Elias Trent, was expendable. "Commander," Mara's voice shook. We have to." The hatch doors opened. A tug on his sleeve, a force pushing him toward the pod. Elias looked back at the Vanguard, at the faces of the crew he had trusted for years. Fear, guilt, relief, a mix that made his chest ache. He was pushed into the small pod, metal walls pressed around him. Life support systems flickered weakly. Outside, the Vanguard and the alien ships blurred into streaks of light as the pod ejected. He was alone. The pod systems were barely functioning. Oxygen levels dropped slowly but steadily. The main console showed a faint, flickering line. Communication was weak. He activated the emergency beacon, hoping someone somewhere would see it. Meanwhile, back on Earth, Leora Kane, a young communications officer, sat at her console in the Mission Command Center. Most of her colleagues were preparing reports or sipping coffee, tired after long shifts monitoring deep space. But Leora noticed the faint signal, a pulsing, irregular pattern. She frowned. "This can't be right," she muttered. She adjusted the receiver. The signal was weak, almost imperceptible, but there was a human signature embedded in it. Someone was alive, drifting far beyond any known sector. She tapped her superior's shoulder. "Commander Rains, you need to see this. It's human. I think someone's out there." He glanced at the screen. "Impossible. We lost contact with the Vanguard days ago. There's no one alive that far out." "Yet the signal exists," Leora insisted. Her heart raced. She had always believed that humanity never left anyone behind. That principle had been drilled into every officer. "We have to check it." Elias inside the pod fought to stay conscious. He rationed the oxygen, controlled the temperature, and monitored the failing systems. He ran calculations in his head, trying to figure out a path back to human space. Each second mattered. One mistake, one miscalculation, and he would die here alone. Days passed, or maybe hours. He had lost track of time. Stars blurred into streaks. His only companion was the hum of the pod and the faint, static-filled signal he had sent. But Elias refused to give in to despair. Humanity had survived worse. He had survived worse, and if anyone was listening, he would find a way to get back. He began to scavenge what little energy he had. He repurposed panels, rerouted power, and repaired minor systems using spare parts. Every adjustment, every fix was a testament to human ingenuity. Machines could fail, ships could be destroyed, but the mind was limitless. Back on Earth, Leora became obsessed. She spent hours decoding the faint pulses. Each fragment revealed more about the pod, about the alien interference, about Elia's location. Her colleagues grew frustrated. "It's hopeless," they said. "He's too far, signals fade, we can't reach him." But Leora refused to give up. She tapped into every resource available, pushing equipment beyond limits. Her persistence paid off. She pieced together a pattern, a trail, a breadcrumb path through the void that could lead to him. Elias, sensing a possible breakthrough, risked opening the pod to repair the main antenna. He floated in the tiny cabin, tools in hand, aware that the slightest error could tear the pod apart or expose him to alien detection. He worked slowly, methodically, every movement precise. He thought of his crew, not with anger, but with the hope that he might one day return and reconcile. The pod drifted closer to an asteroid belt. Navigating through it was dangerous, but it offered cover from the alien scouts that lurked in the distance. Elias used the irregular gravitational fields to slingshot the pod, a maneuver risky even for seasoned pilots. He reminded himself, humans survive by thinking, not just by reacting. Leora monitored the signals as the pod moved. "He's alive," she whispered, "and he's smart. God, he's smart." Elias finally managed to send a stronger burst from the jury-rigged antenna. The signal reached Earth Command, faint but clear enough to confirm he was alive. It carried not only a plea for rescue but also fragments of his thoughts, his knowledge, his hope. On Earth, the signal caused a stir. "This is real," Commander Rain said, watching the data stream. "He's out there and we can't leave him." "Then we won't," Leora said, determination blazing in her eyes. "Humanity never leaves its own behind. We're not about to start now." Elias, floating in darkness, didn't know if anyone would come, but he believed. Humans had always found a way. Humans had always returned, and as long as that belief burned in him, he would survive. And far away, across the void of space, the first small movements of a rescue mission began. Ships were readied, calculations plotted, and humans prepared to venture into the unknown. For Elias Trent, the darkness seemed a little less lonely. For humanity, the challenge was just beginning. The stars outside the pod stretched endlessly, but Elias smiled weakly with determination in his heart. He had been left to die, but he would not. Humanity always came back for its own. The pod drifted silently through the endless void, spinning slowly as if space itself were testing Elias Trent. Days, or maybe weeks, passed in the quiet. The hum of the pod's failing systems was the only sound he heard, punctuated by the occasional alarm blaring a warning he had already memorized. Oxygen levels dropped steadily, and the temperature fluctuated as the backup systems struggled to maintain life. Elias could feel the strain in his chest, but he refused to give in. "Humans survive," he whispered to himself. "We always find a way." He checked the supplies again. Rations were minimal. Water was rationed to ounces, and he had only a few energy packs left. He had to stretch them until rescue arrived, if rescue even could. He began to repurpose every tool, every wire, every piece of scrap metal in the pod. Broken consoles became shields. Damaged circuits became power regulators. Every adjustment brought a little more life into the fragile craft. Elias remembered what he had learned in survival training. Keep calm, assess your environment, make every decision matter. The pod's trajectory would take him near an asteroid belt, an opportunity for both danger and cover. He set the autopilot to thread the needle between massive rocks, hoping the aliens wouldn't follow too closely. Meanwhile, the alien scouts had detected the pod's signal. They were patient hunters circling silently, their sleek ships designed for speed and precision. Their sensors were far superior to anything human technology could muster, and yet Elias had one advantage: unpredictability. They expected him to panic, to surrender. he didn't. He initiated a risky maneuver. Using a damaged thruster and the gravitational pull of nearby asteroids, he slingshotted the pod in a jagged path that would confuse any pursuer. The pod jolted violently, lights flickered, and alarms screamed. His body slammed against the harness, but he gritted his teeth and pressed forward. Come on, he muttered, recalculating the trajectory in real time. Back on Earth, Leora Kane worked tirelessly in the communications lab. She had decoded the faint bursts of data from the pod, translating Elia's signals into usable coordinates. Each pulse revealed more than just location. It revealed his ingenuity, his adaptability, and his calm under pressure. He's not just surviving, Leora told Commander Rains, leaning over his console. He's improvising. He's using the pod like a weapon and a shield. He's human in the truest sense. Rains frowned. We have the capability to send a rescue fleet, but it's risky. The aliens are tracking him. Any attempt could be seen as an act of war, and our ships are untested in this sector. Then we take the risk, Leora said firmly. He's out there fighting alone. We can't abandon him. Humanity doesn't leave its own behind. Elias worked tirelessly in the pod, repairing circuits with stripped wires and small panels torn from the walls. He created a makeshift sensor array to detect incoming alien scouts. He could see them now, faint blips on the limited radar. They were moving cautiously, studying him, waiting for a mistake. He grinned despite the situation. Humans aren't predictable, he muttered, and neither am I. Using the pod's limited energy, he launched small decoy drones, simple, improvised devices that mimicked the pod's signal. The aliens adjusted their course, investigating the decoys while Elias slipped further into the asteroid belt. He knew he was buying time, not escaping entirely, but every second counted. As he maneuvered, Elias faced another challenge. The pod's life support system began to fail. The oxygen scrubbers were damaged and CO2 levels rose. His head throbbed and his movement slowed. But he refused to panic. He scavenged parts from the damaged systems, rerouting airflow and using emergency filters to stretch the oxygen supply. Each success felt like a small victory. Each failure reminded him of the stakes. He couldn't afford mistakes. Not here, not alone, not with humanity counting on him. In the distance, a faint glimmer of hope appeared. The signal he had sent from his makeshift antenna had been received on Earth. Leora had managed to amplify it, creating a small thread connecting him to humanity across the void. For the first time in days, Elias felt the warmth of hope. "They're coming," he whispered. "Someone's coming." The alien scouts, sensing the increased signal, accelerated. They were closing in, their alien technology superior in speed and firepower. Elias knew he couldn't outrun them in a straight fight. He had to outthink them. He analyzed their patterns, noting the predictable intervals of their approach. Using the asteroid belt's irregular formations, he created a trap. He would lure them into a narrow corridor between massive rocks where their speed and size would work against them. The plan worked. The aliens pursued, confident they would capture him. But as they entered the corridor, the pod maneuvered with precision, zigzagging through impossible gaps. One scout clipped an asteroid and veered off course, while another was forced to slow, giving Elias the chance to slip further away. "Clever little humans," one of the alien ships transmitted, though Elias couldn't understand the language. He smirked. Clever indeed. Days blurred together. Elias ate the last of his rations sparingly, drank carefully, and focused entirely on survival and communication. He sent periodic bursts of encoded messages, containing not only his coordinates but instructions and observations about the alien movements. Each message was a breadcrumb, a hope that someone, anyone, would follow it and rescue him. On Earth, Leora monitored every pulse. She pieced together the puzzle, calculating a rescue route through the asteroid fields. It was dangerous, untested and almost certainly suicidal for the first wave of ships, but she was determined. She could not allow Elias to die, not after seeing the ingenuity and bravery he displayed. "Commander Rains, we can reach him," she said. "It's risky, yes, but he's counting on us. Humanity counts on us. We can't fail." Rains hesitated, then nodded. "Prepare the fleet. We launch in 24 hours." Elias, unaware of the exact timing, continued his delicate work. His pod had become a small fortress of ingenuity, a testament to human adaptability. He repaired damaged circuits, built improvised shields, and even created a small propulsion enhancement using discarded fuel cells. Every day was a battle, every movement a decision between life and death. Despite the isolation, he allowed himself brief moments of reflection. Memories of his crew, of Earth, of the people he loved, kept him going. He thought not of despair, but of hope. If humans could survive ice storms, wars, and famine, they could survive the void. And he would prove it, not just for himself, but for all humanity. The first blips of the rescue fleet appeared on Earth's sensors, small but steady. Leora's calculations confirmed it. They were on their way, threading a path through the asteroid fields and moving toward Elia's last known location. But danger was not finished. The alien scouts, angered and frustrated, accelerated toward the pod. Elias had prepared as best he could, but he knew the coming encounter would test every ounce of his ingenuity. He took a deep breath and floated in the pod, tools at hand, eyes scanning the darkness. He whispered to himself, as he had for days, "Humans survive, humans endure, humans always come back." And with that, he readied himself for the next challenge, the one that would test his wits, courage, and the true strength of humanity. Elias Trent floated in the pod, his body tense but his mind razor-sharp. Every movement was precise, every calculation exact. The alien scouts were close now, their sensors scanning, their ships cutting through the darkness like hunting predators. But Elias had an advantage they didn't anticipate: human ingenuity. He glanced at the blinking console. The jury-rigged sensors he had built were picking up their approach patterns. He studied their maneuvers carefully. They expected panic, but Elias had something else in mind. He wouldn't just survive, he would turn the hunters into the hunted. He activated the decoy drones, tiny makeshift devices that mimicked the pod's signal. He launched them in multiple directions, zigzagging unpredictably. The aliens adjusted course, scanning each false target. One clipped an asteroid and spun out of control. Another slowed, giving Elias a narrow but critical escape window. He maneuvered the pod through the jagged asteroid belt, slingshotting around massive rocks and weaving through impossible gaps. It was a dangerous dance, and a single miscalculation could shatter the pod into pieces. But Elias thrived on challenges. Humans had always thrived where logic and courage met. Far across the void, Leora Kane watched the data streaming in. Every pulse, every signal burst, every maneuver of Elias' pod was decoded and displayed on her console. She spoke softly to herself, almost like a prayer. "You're smart, Elias. You can do this. We'll find you." Commander Rains entered the room, frowning at the lines of data. "He's alive," he said, "and he's fighting, but the aliens are relentless. One mistake and he's gone." Leora didn't flinch. "Then we make sure he doesn't make a mistake. We'll be there, Commander. We'll reach him. Humanity never abandons its own." Elias sent another encrypted signal, a burst of coordinates with fragments of strategy. He was giving humanity a lifeline, a chance to plan a rescue. The message was brief but detailed, showing exactly how he had survived and the patterns of alien movement. It was a map of hope carried across light years. Within hours, the rescue fleet assembled. Human ships, small and agile, threaded through the asteroid belt toward Elias' location. They were untested in this dangerous sector, but every captain and crew aboard knew the stakes. This wasn't just a mission, it was a promise. Humanity would never leave one of its own behind. The fleet approached, and Elias detected their faint signals. Relief surged through him. For the first time in weeks, he felt that someone was coming for him. But he also knew danger was far from over. The alien scouts had noticed the increased communication, and their aggression intensified. Elias activated the pod's limited weapon systems, small but precise energy pulses designed to disrupt sensors and deter the closest alien ship. One pulse hit a scout, causing it to veer off course. Another narrowly avoided a collision with a spinning asteroid, slowed by the pod's clever use of debris as cover. He wasn't just surviving, he was leading. Each action bought time for the fleet to reach him. Humanity's technology alone was not enough. Elias' ingenuity and courage made the difference. Back on Earth, Leora coordinated the fleet's approach. She used Elias' signals to predict alien movements, guiding human ships around traps and dangerous zones. Her calculations were precise, her strategy clear. Avoid direct confrontation until the rescue pod was within range, then strike decisively. The first human ship appeared on Elias' sensors, a sleek, silver vessel that cut through the darkness with purpose. Relief and excitement surged through him, but there was no time to celebrate. The aliens were closing in fast, and any hesitation could be fatal. "Focus, Trent," he muttered. "This is it." He triggered the final stage of his plan. Using the asteroid belt's natural obstacles, he created a maze of decoy signals and evasive maneuvers. The aliens, overconfident and impatient, plunged into the trap. Their ships collided with asteroids, forced to slow or turn sharply, losing coordination. Elias' pod slipped through the gaps, small and agile like a shadow in the dark. The first rescue ship reached him, its tractor beam locking onto the pod. The connection was stable, but the alien scouts were still nearby. Elias' heart pounded. Every second counted. He had to keep moving, keep thinking, keep surviving. The fleet engaged the aliens. Human ships fired precise energy pulses, targeting the scouts, engines, and sensors rather than trying to destroy them outright. The goal was simple: create confusion, slow them down, and give Elias a chance to escape. The aliens were powerful, but humans were clever, adaptable, and relentless. Elias guided the pod into the tractor beam. The first ship's shields flared as it drew him in, pulling him safely aboard. He floated in zero gravity, exhausted but alive, and allowed himself the smallest smile. Humanity had come back for its own. Inside the rescue ship, he looked at the crew, humans who had risked everything to reach him. Relief, pride, and gratitude swelled in his chest. "Thank you," he whispered. It was more than a personal thanks. It was a statement of human resilience, unity, and determination. The alien scouts, disoriented and slowed by the human strategy, began to retreat. They had underestimated the cleverness and courage of humanity. Elias watched them disappear into the void, knowing that the battle was over for now. But humanity had made its point. On Earth, Leora smiled at the data feeds. "He's safe," she said softly. "We did it. Humanity did it." Commander Rains nodded, pride and relief mixing in his expression. But Elias knew the fight was far from over. The aliens were intelligent and dangerous. They had learned that humans could survive, adapt, and outthink even superior technology. And he knew that humanity would continue to face challenges far beyond this sector. For now, though, there was victory. Not just in surviving, but in proving that humans would not abandon one of their own, no matter the cost. That was the essence of humanity: the cleverness, the courage, the unbreakable will to endure and protect. Elias floated in the medical bay, still connected to sensors and life support, and allowed himself to rest. His body ached, his mind was tired, but his spirit burned brightly. He had faced the void, faced betrayal, and faced death itself. And he had survived. Leora's voice came through the comms, calm and steady. "Trent, can you hear me?" "I can hear you," he replied. "And I'll never forget this. Humanity always comes back for its own." The rescue ship moved away from the asteroid belt, carrying Elias towards safety and home. The stars outside seemed a little warmer now, less hostile, more like old friends welcoming him back. As the fleet returned to human space, Elias' thoughts turned to the future. The aliens were out there, watching, learning. Humanity had survived this encounter, but it would face many more. And each time humans would endure. Humans would adapt. Humans would always come back. For Elias Trent, the HFY moment was clear. Survival was not just about strength or firepower. It was about intelligence, courage, and the unbreakable bond of humanity. Alone in the void, he had proved that humans could overcome anything, outthink anything, and survive anything. Elias Trent sat in the recovery bay of the lead rescue ship, staring out the viewport at the stars slipping past. He had survived what most would have called impossible, weeks alone in the void, hunted by alien scouts, abandoned by his own crew. Yet here he was, alive. Humanity had come back for him, just as he had believed they would. The medical team moved efficiently around him, checking vitals, administering oxygen, and monitoring for any lingering effects of prolonged isolation. Every procedure reminded Elias of one simple truth: he was part of something larger than himself. Humanity was never just individuals. It was a network of courage, ingenuity, and loyalty. And today, that network had reached across light years to save one of its own. "Commander Trent," a voice called gently. Elias turned to see Captain Mara Chen entering the recovery bay. His old crew member, the one who had pushed him into the pod, now approached with a cautious, almost guilty expression. You're alive," she said softly. Elias studied her for a moment, seeing the fear and regret in her eyes. He didn't feel anger, not anymore. He felt understanding. Humanity was about making mistakes, facing danger, and sometimes making impossible decisions. But it was also about redemption, courage, and coming together when it mattered most. "I'm alive," he said simply, "because humanity doesn't leave its own behind. That includes you." Chen's eyes widened, a mixture of relief and awe crossing her face. She nodded, silently promising herself to remember that lesson for the rest of her life. The fleet moved steadily toward human space. The alien scouts had retreated, their ships disappearing into the darkness, wary of the clever and relentless humans who had outsmarted them. Elias knew that this wasn't the end. Aliens were intelligent, patient, and dangerous. But humanity had proven a key point. Cleverness, courage, and unity could match even superior technology. In the command center aboard the lead ship, Leora Kane monitored the fleet's progress. She smiled at the steady stream of data confirming Elias' stable condition. She had been instrumental in decoding his signals, calculating rescue trajectories, and guiding the fleet through perilous asteroid fields. Her dedication had helped save a life, and more than that, it had proven the enduring spirit of humanity. "You did it," Commander Rain said, entering the room. "We brought him back. Humanity brought him back." Leora nodded, eyes still glued to the screens. "No, Elias did it," she said firmly. "He survived, outsmarted the aliens, and gave us the information we needed. We just followed the breadcrumbs." Back in the recovery bay, Elias began to recount his experiences to the medical team and his rescuers. He described how he had repaired the pod, built decoys, navigated the asteroid belt, and fought off alien scouts with nothing but his wits. Each story was a testament to human ingenuity, endurance, and unbreakable spirit. The crew listened in awe. Some shook their heads in disbelief. Others smiled, inspired by the incredible tale. Elias' words weren't just about survival. They were about what humans could achieve when they refused to give up, when they trusted in their minds, and when they believed in one another. Days passed, and the fleet finally reached the edge of human-controlled space. News of Elias' survival spread quickly across the communications network. Earth Command prepared for a formal reception, celebrating the return of a hero who had endured the impossible. On Earth, the celebration was massive. Media channels broadcasted stories of Elia's ingenuity, the rescue operation, and the message it sent across the stars. Humanity is clever, resilient, and loyal. Schools, research facilities, and government offices held discussions about his survival tactics, the bravery of the rescue fleet, and the enduring principle that no human would ever be left behind. Elias stepped onto the surface of Earth, feeling gravity pull at him in a way that was almost foreign after weeks in zero gravity. Journalists, scientists, and fellow officers crowded around, eager to see the man who had survived the void and outsmarted alien hunters. Children waved flags and adults cheered. It was a moment of triumph, but also a moment of reflection. He looked at the crowd, at the people who had believed in him, who had fought to bring him back. And he understood something deeper. Humanity's strength wasn't just in technology, ships, or weapons. It was in determination, intelligence, and heart. In a press briefing, Elias spoke with calm confidence. We survived because we never stopped thinking, because we never stopped trying, and because we never stopped believing in each other. Humans are clever, adaptable, and determined, and we always come back for our own. The crowd erupted in applause, not just for Elias but for what he represented, the unyielding spirit of humanity. Later, alone in his quarters, Elias reflected on the events that had transpired. He thought of the alien scouts, of the endless void, and of the moments when hope had seemed almost lost. And he thought of Leora Kane, who had spent hours decoding his signals, guiding the fleet, and refusing to give up. Humanity was not just one person. It was millions, all working together, all believing in the impossible. He understood now that this mission was not just about exploration. It was about proving that humanity could survive, adapt, and triumph against the odds. The void of space was vast and merciless, but human ingenuity, courage, and determination could carve a path through even the darkest reaches. And somewhere beyond the stars, Elias knew, the alien scouts had learned an important lesson. Humans were not predictable. Humans were not weak. Humans would endure, survive, and fight back with cunning and courage that no technology could match. Earth celebrated, but humanity also prepared. Research teams analyzed the encounter, scientists improved fleet tactics, and engineers developed new technologies inspired by Elias' ingenuity. Humanity had been tested, and it had not only survived, it had grown stronger. Elias walked along the observation deck, looking out at the stars once more. The void that had once seemed terrifying now felt full of possibilities. There were dangers, yes, but there was also the certainty that humans could overcome them. That certainty, that faith in human resilience and intelligence, was the true triumph. He thought of the future, the next missions, the next explorers, the next challenges. Humanity would go further, face more unknowns, and confront more dangers. And each time, humans would endure. Humans would adapt. Humans would always come back. Finally, Elias turned to leave the observation deck, ready to reintegrate into a world that had learned and grown from his ordeal. He had survived the impossible, and in doing so, had inspired a generation. And deep inside, he knew one unshakable truth. And the universe would never forget.